So yesterday I was on Twitter and scrolling through looking at different posts, and I found this particular tweet. Now I know this is about politics, and we don't talk about politics on this site. We talk about, carnivore and low carb and so forth. But this really got me thinking. Um, it's very easy to kind of talk about the same thing, the same concept here in terms of the food industry. So let's look at this tweet. It says, "This is how our government has been corrupted. Donors give huge sums to elect politicians to office. Elected officials rewrite the rules in the donors' favor. Donors make a huge profit. Repeat. For the sake of democracy, we must get big money out of politics." So, this really fits the food industry very well. And this is how I would word it, for the food industry. So I would say this is how our society has been corrupted. Number one, pharmaceuticals and large corporations give huge sums of money to fund research and studies. Number two, scientists and doctors rewrite the results in favor of pharmaceuticals and large corporations. Number three, pharmaceuticals and large corporations make a huge profit. Number four, repeat. For the sake of our health, we must get big money out of the food industry. So, let's talk about this a little bit. Again, this tweet I found was about politics, but it's very easy to incorporate the same thought process in the food industry here. And, when you look at it, the pharmaceuticals and the large corporations that they are profiting like crazy, but you look at it, they fund so many of the studies and the research that's done and so forth on nutrition, food industry, whatever it is, right? And they created this narrative with the scientists and the doctors that have done these studies that sugar is okay for you, and meat, particularly red meat and saturated fat, is bad for you. That's the narrative that they created. And if you're watching this video, you probably agree with me that that is not the truth. That's far from the truth. In reality, sugar is what's causing all the problems. And meat and animal fat, the saturated fat, is actually good for you and healthy for you. But again, they've created this narrative, and that's how they're making all this huge profit. Think about it here. They've funded these studies. The scientists and the doctors say, yeah, this is the way it needs to go. You need to lower your intake of red meat, saturated fats, do a low fat diet and so forth. Meanwhile, people are getting sick. They're getting different diseases. They're getting high blood pressure, diabetes, different autoimmune diseases and so forth, cancers and so forth, right? And they are treating that, instead of saying, okay, the way to treat that is through food, and you need to eat whole foods, healthy fats in terms of like saturated fat, animal fat, and red meat and so forth. They're saying, no, the way to treat this is with this pill, with this medication. So the pharmaceuticals are making so much money. The corporations have people hooked on the food, right? Sugar is very addicting. So they don't want sugar to be considered the bad guy in the food industry, right? So for them, sugar is where it all starts. It's a way to addict people to their food, to get them hooked on their food. And, these companies have people in labs that are trying to make their food as addicting as possible for people, because they want you to keep coming back, eating their food, buying their food, and they're just continuing to make money that way, right? So when you look at it, the sugar is a huge part of it, and they've hidden the fact that sugar has caused so many diseases. There's so many different cancers that correlate to sugar consumption. But what are they doing? They're not telling people to stay away from the sugar. If you do get one of these cancers, they're trying to treat it with chemotherapy and other medications and so forth. Diabetes is because of sugar, insulin, so forth, right? Insulin resistance issues. They're not telling you to stay away from the sugar. Maybe to a little extent, they say you need to lower some of this stuff, but they're also not telling you like that certain, things that you're eating, carbs and so forth, are being transferred into insulin in your body. They're not telling you that. Instead, they're telling you, take this medication, take this pill, and it's going to help to keep your diabetes in control, so forth, right? Instead of actually getting rid of the diabetes like people are doing by going on the carnivore diet or a low carb diet, they're getting rid of their diabetes. But they don't want that to happen. Think about it. Pharmaceuticals, they are not going to exist anywhere near what they exist today if people got really healthy and didn't need all the medication and everything that they give you. These corporations, they're not going to make the same kind of money that they make now if you're eating whole foods, you're eating, steak, red meat, whatever it is, beef, chicken, whatever it is that you want to eat, seafood, whatever, right? They're not going to make as much money. They're making money on making these really cheap processed foods and making it very addicting so that people keep buying it over and over again. That's how they're making their money. So that's part of the problem. How do we fix this in our society? Unfortunately, I don't know how it can be done. What really needs to happen is a grassroots effort, because these pharmaceuticals, these large corporations, they are not going to change. They are making money off of all of this, and they really don't care about you. They care about themselves, about the, the money they're making and all, the being in existence and having this huge corporation and stuff, right? The corporation wants to make the money and continue to grow. And the top officials in the corporation want to keep making money too, right? It's about money for them. They just don't really care about you and your health. It is up to you to do the research and come to the conclusion that you need to do what's best for yourself, because they don't care about you. Unfortunately, it's about money for them. It's about a business, a corporation, a pharmaceutical, but between the pharmaceuticals and the corporations that are making all this processed food, it's not in their best interest for you to get healthy and stop eating their food or stop taking their medication. So they're not thinking in your best interest. They're thinking in what's the best for their profits. It's up to you to educate yourself, to figure out what is the best thing for you to do, how's the healthiest way to eat, what you can do to prevent the disease in the first place so you don't have to take that medication. And there's a lot of people that are starting to come around to that. And that's what low carb and the carnivore diet is about. Even, to the other extreme, people that are doing, that are vegan, that are doing that kind of stuff. If they're doing like a whole foods vegan type of diet and trying to stay away from the processed foods. No, there's not always the case, right? There's plenty of vegans that are doing all kinds of processed foods, but the ones that are going whole foods, trying to stay away from those processed foods, they've realized as well that they need to stay away from it. Now, I don't agree that they think that you shouldn't eat meat and so forth and you need to be vegan, because I do believe that, your body is going to create more insulin than it actually needs by eating vegan, and you're not getting the nutrients that you get when you're a carnivore. But it's still the same idea here. Those people are going away from that norm, what we are told is the norm and what you should be doing. So those are the people that are, doing what they should for their health. But with the society the way it is, with all this junk food getting pushed to us and people being so hooked on this food, it being so addicting, there's just huge numbers of people, huge percentage of people that are not seeing this and are not doing what is right for their health. Some cases, they think they're doing what's healthy. They're seeing the basics on the nutrition label and it's saying that this is a healthy food for them, or they're seeing the commercials, the commercials for things like certain cereals that say it's heart healthy and so forth. And it really isn't, but people are seeing that and they're thinking that this is what they're telling me. I need to stay away from sodium. I need to stay away from red meat and saturated fat. And that's what's happening here, right? Those people think they're doing what is best for their health, but they haven't really done the research for themselves. They're doing what is being told to them, what they're being fed by the corporations and the pharmaceuticals so that they can continue to make money. And unfortunately, that is a huge problem in our society. You go back to before the processed food industry was so huge and before so much sugar was being put in our foods and so forth. And there was a lot less cancer-related stuff, heart disease, diabetes and so forth, autoimmune diseases. So many of these things are either new since we've had all this processed food and sugar, or it's just gotten exponentially worse and worse as we've been eating less animal meat and fat and more processed plant food and other junk. And unfortunately, the only way that I see around it is this grassroots effort. You see the people on YouTube and other social media that are promoting whole foods and carnivore and low carb. I just don't know if we can reach enough people. I hope we can. I really do. I hope we can. But that's the sad state of our food industry and our society today. And it's really got me, as you can tell. It's a bit of an emotional thing for me, right? I mean, I was fooled for years and years of my life. I used to think that it was okay. I used to eat a lot of baby spinach and so forth. I thought it was good and healthy for me. Sweet potatoes, bananas, I would eat different rices and stuff like that. Different potatoes. There were different artificial proteins, like plant-based proteins and protein shakes or protein bars or whatever. I used to think all those different things were healthy. And then I started to realize that they're not. I started looking further into the nutrition labels and seeing all the different things in it. I used to drink certain flavored and sparkling waters that I thought were fairly healthy for me. They say no sugar, but then you see all the fake sugars, all the artificial sweeteners in them and so forth. And, I'm upset that most of my life I have done the wrong things eating wise, but I'm glad that I have found the light, so to speak, and that I am now more in tune to what I need to do for my health, because I know they're not going to help me. They're out for their profits. I need to do what's best for me. And that's why I've done what I've done. And that's why I have this channel to help other people realize the benefits of, a low carb or carnivore diet. So let me know in the comments what you think about all this. And if you like this video, go ahead and like it, because then I will know that you like this type of content and it'll help me in creating new content in the future. So for now, that's it. And I'll see you in the next video.